Welcome to our Weather Impact Report, where we take a look at the top weather stories here in Georgia and around the nation. I'm meteorologist Danielle Moss. This week, we reached the peak of hurricane season, and we're just weeks away from the one-year anniversary of Hurricane Helene. Meteorologist Melissa Nord visited Georgia-based Norfolk Southern's Operations Center. She shares how the company navigates impacts from hurricanes and other weather extremes.
You think you're prepared for a very impactful hurricane, and weather will prove you incorrect in some cases.
Helene was the worst hurricane on record for Atlanta-based Norfolk Southern. Over 21,000 feet of track was washed out, 50,000 feet of track needed repair, and a bridge replacement kept the company's AS line offline until May.
What I'm most proud about is the resiliency, the grit, the teamwork that's involved in this, but most importantly, the value of every decision being made through the lens of safety.
It's the pre-planning for the unknown that Senior Vice President of Transportation Tim Livingston credits capping the losses.
We call it the safe zone. We pull everything out, meaning people, equipment where we can, and we'll have to tie down crossing gates to protect the community that we operate in.
They stay ahead of the weather here in the Network Operations Center.
I like to say the NNC there, it stands for the nerve center of our railroad.
We have 46 different dispatchers in the center.
Each dispatcher is focused on a different territory.
Where you see blue or purple is an area where engineering is working on the track. They're having to manage what on this screen appears as a red line, but is actually a train in the field.
They receive advanced and real-time forecasts from their third-party weather forecasting partner, highlighting impacts along each train line.
So if there is a quickly evolving weather situation, at the flip of a switch, they can quickly slow down, stop, or reroute a train.
Superintendent of Transportation Andy Koch says with every weather extreme, freight rail can be impacted differently. With heat,
we patrol the track looking for what we call heat kinks, and making sure the track's stable and can support track speed.
In heavy rainstorms,
we'll restrict our trains down to 40 miles an hour during what we call flash flood warnings.
And with bigger systems like hurricanes, they halt and reroute, creating the safe zone.
There's no decision that overcomes the value of safety.
The company is also in a merger agreement with Union Pacific, which would create the first transcontinental freight railroad in the U.S. The new headquarters, after the expected 2027 closure, would be in Omaha, Nebraska. But Atlanta is still expected to play a critical role for the company's technology, operations, and innovation. A big update on a Paulding County girl that was injured after severe weather rolled through last week. 12-year-old Claudia Bacon is off a ventilator and now responding. She suffered multiple skull fractures, a bruised lung, and a broken rib after being hit by the tree at an arts festival last Saturday. Claudia is still in the ICU with doctors closely monitoring her. They say her progress is already outpacing expectations. Her family is asking for continued prayers as Claudia continues her fight. In Savannah, Sunday evening, storms left quite a mess. A massive tree came crashing down in the city's South Historic District. The tree crushed several vehicles and part of a home's front porch. Luckily, no one was hurt. Parts of South Florida experienced flooding on Friday after days of rain. Several lakes in the area could have contributed to the flood event. As the day went on, water started receding. At least one car stalled out in deep floodwaters in the city of Hollywood, just south of Fort Lauderdale. Thankfully, there were no reports of flooded homes in that area. Heavy rain impacted the Kansas State Fair on Monday. Organizers were forced to shut down all on-grounds parking areas at the fair after a foot of rain fell in the region. Drone video, as you can see there, shows that some parking lots were swamped. Alternative parking areas were opened with shuttle buses carrying fairgoers to other parts of the fairground. Well, seeds are falling from the sky in other parts of the country, and it's not by accident. Brad Hicks shows us how drones are helping solve a serious problem and why it matters from the upper Midwest to the Gulf.
Under the canopy of this Iowa cornfield, you can see Dan Stainer's success story. All these long stemmed plants right here are oats.
They may not seem like much, but these sprouts could help fishermen 1,000 miles away.
If the corn didn't use all of the fertilizer, the nitrogen is going down the Mississippi basin into the Gulf of Mexico and ruining those fisheries.
The oats will scavenge that leftover nitrogen from the soil and store it for next season's corn. The oats are a cover crop, planted for their ecological instead of economic benefit.
It means we're not leaving soil bare at any point during the year.
Which also helps control weeds and erosion. But there's a problem. In the Midwest, by the time corn and soybeans are harvested in October, it's often too late to plant a cover crop. So how did Dan Stainer get those oat seeds growing so early? He flew them in on a giant drone. It's called interseeding.
Interseeding is a great way to get cover crops on the ground before the corn is harvested or the soybeans are harvested.
Usually it's done this way. Not so good for the soil, and it costs the farmer a lot of time and fuel. The drones can carry 150 pounds of seed. The fields are mapped out in advance so they don't miss an inch.
That's for the whole field?
Yeah. Sand County Foundation is covering the cost in Dubuque County so farmers can try it. On this day, they're doing Jeff Pape's 150 acres of soybeans.
The main thing for me is water quality. That's a big issue for me and always has been.
And with drone technology evolving, the sky's the limit.
They're getting bigger, faster, carry more payloads, cover more acres, and I feel like that's just going to keep evolving.
In Dubuque County, Iowa, Brad Hicks reporting.
The Trump administration has ended a working group that drew backlash for downplaying the risk of climate change. Climate scientists are calling the group's shutdown a win, a big win. The panel was made up of 5 well-known climate change skeptics, and at one point, their report even suggested climate change could be beneficial. Despite the group ending, the Energy Department is not withdrawing its report. Arizona's rising summer heat may be more than even desert wildlife can handle. Climate change playing a big part in how some snakes adapt. William Pitts reports from Phoenix.
When this place is finished, it will be home to some new tenants at the Phoenix Zoo.
The lizards we're going to be putting in, the native Sonoran desert lizards, obviously are used to warm weather, but every year it gets hotter and hotter for longer.
Lizards can't regulate their body temperature, so when it's hot, so are they. They usually just go underground or in the shade, but that's not enough anymore.
Reptiles like warm weather, but the extreme triple digits, they're not a fan of. Growing up, I never thought we would have to worry about cooling off desert reptiles, but we do.
So the desert lizards, who've survived who knows how long in the Arizona desert, are getting air conditioning.
We're going to run cold water through the concrete to keep them cooled down even more.
That's in the zoo. But what happens in the wild when it's too hot?
And as usually happens during the summer, the snakes go underground, and if it stays hot, they'll sometimes stay underground for a month or so during the hottest part of the summer. But then after the heat started to subside late in the summer, early fall, these guys didn't come up.
Mike Cardwell studies rattlesnakes for the Arizona Poison Center in Tucson. They had 2 snakes radio tagged in 2023, and then they stopped moving.
In 25 years of radio tracking a lot of rattlesnakes in the Mojave Desert and the Sonoran Desert, I never had a rattlesnake fail to emerge after being underground during the summer.
Those rattlesnakes had died. Cardwell thinks they died during a historically bad heat wave, a string of days over 110 degrees. The ground didn't cool off enough and stayed hotter than the snakes could survive. Wildlife experts say if this keeps up, and by all accounts it probably will, we're looking at a bunch of wildlife changes.
But is it entirely possible that in the future, some of these animals that we see around Phoenix aren't going to be around Phoenix anymore?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, we're headed for a direction where the climate is changing faster than species can evolve to adapt to it.
Well, it's fall and many people are super excited to check out all the fall leaves, but a famously beautiful leaf peeping spot in Vermont's Upper Valley will once again be closed this foliage season because of privacy issues. Cloudland Road will be blocked off to tourists for the third year in a row in what is sure to be a disappointment for social media influencers and visitors alike. Visitors to the area became an issue to some residents there when their normally quiet road became lined with visitors taking in the views. In August, the decision was made to close the road to local traffic only for the peak of leaf peeping season. We're here in the South. We have been enjoying the cooler weather, but you were warned. Don't call it a comeback. Summer's lurking around the corner again. Although several states just experienced a week or two of crisp fall-like weather, things are going to heat back up again. More than 90 million people in the central and eastern U.S. will have highs in the low 90s Friday through Sunday. And according to the Climate Prediction Center, this round of late summer heat is expected to continue into next week. Summer officially ends on September 22nd. Well, with September being National Preparedness Month, it's important to remember to be prepared for all types of natural disasters. We have a series ongoing on our Weather Impact 24/7 stream where we talk to local EMAs. Check it out and stay prepared. With your Weather Impact Report, I'm meteorologist Danielle Moss.